They weren't the Shelbys or the Boss 362S everyone knows. These were the forgotten monsters, big block brutes, and high-revving small block legends that defined Mustang performance in the 70s. Some built in double digits, others detuned and overlooked, all of them brutally fast. You probably never heard of half of them. Welcome back to Legendary Classic Cars. Today we're diving deep into the hidden muscle of the Mustang world, the 10 most powerful Mustangs of the 70s that nobody talks about. From Kansas, only Twister Specials, to the last screaming Boss small blocks, these cars carried the torch for Ford performance during one of the toughest decades in muscle car history. Top 1. 1970 Mustang Twister Special 428 CJ. It looked like a Mach 1 wearing a Halloween costume. Grabber orange paint, black graphics, and a tornado decal spinning on its rear quarter panel. But the 1970 Mustang Twister Special 428 CJ wasn't a gimmick. It was one of the most brutal, region-only Mustangs Ford ever unleashed, and almost no one outside Kansas even knew it existed. Born from a Kansas City sales district promotion, the Twister Special was designed to electrify Midwestern showrooms. Ford pulled 96 Mach 1s off the line and equipped them with competition suspension, blackout hoods, and dual sport mirrors. Half of these cars, just 48 units, got the 428 Cobra jet ram air engine, pumping out a factory-rated 335 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque, though real numbers were closer to 375 horsepower. Backed by a top-loader 4-speed or C6 automatic, these big block beasts could run the quarter mile in the low 13-second range with traction. Inside, the Twister didn't deviate far from a standard Mach 1. High-back bucket seats, simulated wood-grain dash, and Magnum 500 wheels. But buyers didn't care about plush. They cared about the violent surge when that ram air flapper door snapped open at 4,000 RPM. What made it even wilder? The Twister Special was never offered nationwide. It was a Kansas-only regional package, making survivors nearly impossible to find. And while Ford advertised 100 cars, only 96 were ever built. Half with 351 Cleveland V8S, and half with the fire-breathing 428 CJ. Today, real Twisters are verified not by VIN, but by the original quarter-panel decal, making fakes common. Because of their rarity and raw performance, 428 CJ Twister Specials now command six-figure auction results. Collectors treat them as tornadoes in a bottle, ferocious, short-rimmed, and unforgettable. But Ford's next powerhouse Mustang would surprise everyone by downsizing the engine, proving you didn't need cubic inches to dominate the streets. Top 2. 1972 Mustang Mach 1 351 HO R code. By 1972, insurance premiums and emission laws had begun choking the muscle car era. Yet Ford quietly slipped a high-performance sleeper into showrooms, the Mach 1 351 HO. It was a wolf, dressed in mid-cycle Mach 1 sheet metal, and only the sharpest eyes caught its fangs. Ford built just 398 of these cars, making them rarer than most Boss Mustangs. Beneath the NASCA conducted hood lurked the 351 Cleveland High Output, rated at 275 net horsepower, roughly 330 gross, and equipped with a 4-bolt main block, solid lifter cam, forged pistons, and a high-flow intake. Paired with a 4-speed top loader and 3.91 traction lock rear gears, the HO could rip 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 6.5 seconds, blazing fast for an idle of shrinking compression ratios. Externally, the R code looked like a typical Mach 1, with honeycomb grille, color-keyed urethane bumpers, sport mirrors, and Mach 1 stripes. Inside, drivers found knitted vinyl high-back bucket seats, wood-grain dash accents, and optional gauge clusters. Nothing screamed special, and that was the point. What most buyers didn't realize was that the HO engine was essentially a Boss 351 mil detuned for emissions. It carried the same solid lifters, high nickel block, and big port heads. Ford didn't advertise it heavily because it feared insurance companies would blacklist it. As a result, few buyers ever checked the R code box, and even fewer survived intact. Today, the Mach 1 351 HO is revered by collectors as the last true high-winding small-block Mustang of the 70s. Low production numbers and near-bossed performance make it a six-figure car when restored correctly. But if the 351 HO proved small blocks could still bite, Ford's next Mustang doubled down on displacement, with a 429 cubic inch monster designed to terrify Camaros and Mopars alike. Top 3. 1970 Mustang Boss, 429. It was the ultimate Mustang sleeper, a car that looked like a standard fastback but carried a NASCAR-bred monster under its hood. The 1970 Mustang Boss 429 wasn't just powerful, it was overbuilt, under-advertised, and terrifying to anything that lined up next to it at a stoplight. Ford built just 499 Boss 429s in 1970, each hand-assembled at Carecraft in Brighton, Michigan. To fit the massive 429 cubic inch semi-Hemi engine into the Mustang's engine bay, Carecraft had to modify the shock towers, relocate the battery to the trunk, and add competition suspension. Rated at 375 gross horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque, the real output was closer to 500 horsepower. With a top-loader 4-speed and 3.91 traction-lock rear, the Boss 429 could do 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.3 seconds and the quarter mile in the low 13s. Externally, the Boss 429 was subtle. It wore a functional hood scoop, chrome Magnum 500 wheels, and small Boss 429 decals on the fenders. Inside, it was Spartan. High-back bucket seats, wood-grain dash, and a Hurst shifter poking through the floor. No flashy stripes, no spoilers, just muscle. What made the Boss 429 unique was its purpose. Ford didn't build it for drag racing or street dominance. It was created to homologate the 429 engine for NASCAR competition. The company needed to produce at least 500 cars for eligibility, so each Boss 429 was essentially a street-legal race car. Buyers didn't fully grasp the engineering they were getting. Because of its low production numbers and racing pedigree, the Boss 429 is one of the most coveted Mustangs ever. Original, unmolested examples now command $300,000, $600,000 at auction. But Ford wasn't done building big block legends. Their next powerhouse was a Mach 1 packing the same 429 cubic inch displacement, only this time it came supercharged with the SCJ drag pack. Top 4 1971 Mustang Mach 1 429 Super Cobra Jet, SCJ. The 1971 Mustang Mach 1 429 Super Cobra Jet didn't just flex muscle, it redefined it. Bigger, heavier, and louder than any Mach 1 before, it was the last of Ford's factory big block brawlers, purpose-built to dominate the quarter mile when the muscle car era was fading fast. Ford built just 531 of these Mach 1 SCJs, each equipped with the fearsome 429 cubic inch Super Cobra Jet. Rated at 375 gross horsepower and a pavement-twisting 450 pound-feet of torque, real output approached 500 horsepower. SCJ cars came standard with the drag pack, 3.91 or 4.11 gears, an oil cooler, stronger internals, and a solid lifter cam designed for high RPM punishment. The 71 Mach 1's design was all attitude, longer, wider, and lower than the previous year. The NACA-style hood scoops fed ram air to the massive engine, while front and rear spoilers, honeycomb grille, and optional Magnum 500 wheels completed the look. Inside, high-back bucket seats, simulated wood-grain dash trim, and a 3-spoke sport steering wheel made it feel like a muscle-bound Grand Tourer. What set the SCJ apart wasn't just its brute force, but its singular focus. This wasn't a luxury Mustang or a daily driver, it was a street-legal drag car. Ford required buyers to order the drag pack to get the SCJ, which scared off many casual customers. As a result, production remained low, and survivors today are unicorns. The Mach 1 SCJ could run 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 5 seconds, and the quarter mile in the low 13s, putting it toe-to-toe with Mopar's Hemis. Today, these cars are six-figure collector pieces, celebrated for their rarity and rawness. But Ford wasn't finished with the 428 and 429 big block formula. Their next Mach 1 would take the legendary 428 Super Cobra Jet drag pack and turn it into one of the most unstoppable straight-line Mustangs ever built. Top 5 1970 Mustang Mach 1 428 Super Cobra Jet drag pack. If there was ever a Mustang engineered purely for the drag strip, it was the 1970 Mach 1 428 Super Cobra Jet with the drag pack. Built to obliterate quarter-mile times and embarrass anything in the next lane, This Mach 1 was the last of the truly untamed big block Mustangs. The 428CJ drag pack was the top predator in Ford's 1970 lineup. Rated at 375 gross horsepower and a staggering 450 pound-feet of torque, the reality was closer to 400-plus horsepower thanks to its ram air system, beefier internals, and an oil cooler designed for sustained high RPMs. Backed by either a close-ratio 4-speed top-loader or C6 automatic, the SCJ could hit 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.5 seconds and tear through the quarter mile in 13 flat with slicks. Externally, the Mach 1 SCJ carried the muscular fastback lines, blackout hood treatment with shaker scoop, color-keyed urethane front bumper, and optional Magnum 500 wheels. Inside, buyers enjoyed high-back bucket seats, wood-grain dash panels, and a Hurst shifter that screamed business. The drag pack option wasn't just cosmetic, it forced you into a package that included 3.91 or 4.3 rear gears and the full-strength Super Cobra jet engine. Many buyers avoided it because it was too aggressive for daily driving. As a result, only 857 units of the Mach 1 SCJ drag pack were built, making it far rarer than most Boss Mustangs. These cars were built to win on the strip, and many were raced hard. Survivors are scarce and often command $130,000 0 cents or more at auction, especially with original drivetrain and documentation. But the next powerhouse Mustang on our list wasn't about outright drag strip brutality. It was a more subtle predator, a Mach 1 packing the same 429 cubes, but without the drag pack's race-first attitude. Up 6, 1971 Mustang Mach 1, 429 CJ, non-SCJ. Not every 429-powered Mach 1 was a full-blown Super Cobra jet. The 1971 Mach 1 429 Cobra jet, non-SCJ, was the more street-friendly version. But don't mistake it for tame. With the same massive displacement and plenty of torque, it was still a quarter-mile menace wrapped in Mach 1 styling. Ford built 737 of these cars, making them far more common than the SCJ, but still rare today. Under the NACA ducted hood sat the 429 cubic inch Cobra jet, rated at 370 gross horsepower and 450 lp-ft of torque. Unlike the SCJ, it used hydraulic lifters, milder cam timing, and highway-friendly 3.25 or 3.5 rear gears. Still, with a 4-speed top-loader or C6 automatic, the CJ could run 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 6 seconds and a quarter mile in the mid-13s. Externally, the Mach 1 CJ was nearly identical to the SCJ, wearing honeycomb grille inserts, color-keyed urethane bumpers, ram air scoops, and optional spoilers. Inside, drivers enjoyed high-back vinyl buckets, wood-grain dash trim, and rally-gauge clusters. The non-SCJ was often overlooked because it didn't require the drag pack, but that made it more livable, and many were loaded with convenience options like air conditioning and power steering. This dual personality meant most lived longer, though finding an untouched original today is still tough. Because they're easier to drive, the 429 CJ Mach 1S are now sought after by collectors who want big block grunt without the SCJ's temperamental edge. Prices for well-documented cars can exceed $100,000, but Ford wasn't done with small block dominance. Their next Mustang would swap cubes for revs and bring back the spirit of the Boss name in a high-winding 351 hoe. Top 7, 1971, Mustang Boss 351. As big blocks were being strangled by emissions, Ford unleashed one last high-revving small-block warrior, the 1971 Mustang Boss 351. It was leaner, sharper, and faster than anyone expected, a true driver's car that proved cubes weren't the only way to rule the street. Ford built 1,806 Boss 351s, making them rare but not unattainable. Under its functional NACA duct hood sat the 351 Cleveland High Output, rated at 330 gross horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque. Equipped with 4-bolt mains, forged pistons, big port heads, a solid lifter cam, and a 780 CFM Holley carb, the Boss 351 loved to rev. Paired with a close-ratio 4-speed top-loader and 391 traction lock rear axle, it could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.8 seconds and cover the quarter mile in the high 13 SS, matching many big block rivals. Outside, the Boss 351 looked all business, with blackout hood treatment, honeycomb grille, and unique Boss 351 callouts on the fenders. Inside, it came with high-back bucket seats, full rally gauges, and a Hurst shifter at the ready. Unlike the temperamental big block cars, the Boss 351 was surprisingly balanced. It weighed less up front, turned quicker, and delivered its power with a wailing crescendo at 6,000 RPM. Many owners daily drove them, but that also meant many were used up and lost over time. Today, the Boss 351 stands as one of the best-handling Mustangs of the 70s. Well-preserved examples routinely bring over $150,000 at auction, especially with original drivetrain and Marti documentation. But if the Boss 351 proved small blocks could be lethal, Ford's next big block Mach 1 would blend brute force with 4-speed control, creating one of the most desirable R-Code 428 CJ Mustangs ever. Top 8 1970 Mustang Mach 1 R-Code 428 CJ 4-speed. If you wanted the perfect mix of muscle and driver control in 1970, the Mach 1 R-Code 428 Cobra jet with a 4-speed was the ticket. It was a street bruiser with just enough refinement to drive daily and enough torque to vaporize tires at will. The R-Code Mach 1 used Ford's fearsome 428 cubic inch Cobra jet V8, rated at 335 gross horsepower and a stump-pulling 440 pound-feet of torque. Mated exclusively to a close ratio 4-speed top-loader, it delivered quarter-mile times in the low 13s and 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.5 seconds. Only 3,181 cars were built in 1970 with this combination, making them highly collectible today. On the outside, the Mach 1 R-Code was classic Mustang. Shaker hood scoop, blackout hood stripes, optional rear spoiler, and Magnum 500 wheels. Inside, high-back bucket seats, wood-grain dash trim, and the Hurst shifter gave it a purpose-built yet comfortable vibe. Unlike drag-pack-equipped SCJs, the R-Code 428 CJ Mach 1 wasn't as punishing on the street. Hydraulic lifters and more forgiving gearing made it a better all-around driver, which ironically meant fewer were preserved in original condition. Many were modified, raced, or simply used up, making surviving examples rare. Collectors now prize these cars for their balance of brute force and usability. Documented originals can easily exceed $125,000 at auction, especially those with factory shaker hoods and original drivetrain intact. But while the rear code balanced big block torque with civility, the next Mach 1 on our list would scale things back even further in displacement, yet remains surprisingly quick and brutally effective. Top 9 1973 Mustang Mach 1351 CJQ code. By 1973, the muscle car era was on life support. Emissions rules and insurance surcharges had gutted performance, but Ford's Mach 1 351 Cobra Jet Q code proved there was still some bite left in the Mustang lineup, even if it was hiding behind softer lines and lower compression. The Q code Mach 1 featured the 351 Cleveland Cobra Jet engine, rated at 266 net horsepower and 301 pound-feet of torque. Though those numbers looked modest compared to earlier gross ratings, the 351 CJ still had big port heads, a performance camshaft, and plenty of mid-range grunt. With the optional 4-speed top-loader and traction-lock rear end, it could run 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 7 seconds and cover the quarter mile in the high 14s. Ford built approximately 10,820 Q-code Mach 1s, making them far more common than the Boss or 428 CJ cars. But well-preserved examples are still rare. Exterior details included the distinctive Mach 1 blackout hood, urethane front bumper, honeycomb grille, and sports mirrors. Inside, buyers found high-back bucket seats, wood-grain dash trim, and rallier gauges. Although often dismissed as a detuned muscle car, the 351 CJ could be ordered with performance axle ratios and ram air, turning it into a surprising street fighter. Many were sold as daily drivers and didn't survive intact, adding to their appeal today. Collectors now appreciate the Q-code Mach 1 as the last true performance Mustang of the early generation. Fully restored examples with factory options can approach $100,000 at auction. But Ford wasn't quite ready to abandon power entirely. The final car on our list proved that even a base SportsRoof Mustang could pack a potent Cleveland V8 punch. Top 10 1970 Mustang SportsRoof 351 CM code. While Mach 1S and Boss cars hogged the spotlight, the 1970 Mustang SportsRoof, equipped with the 351 Cleveland M code, quietly delivered big performance. It was the sleeper of the lineup, offering serious speed in a relatively stripped-down package. The M-Co 351C was Ford's new small-block powerhouse, rated at 300 gross horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. With 4-barrel carburation, high-flow heads, and a 10.71 compression ratio, it was every bit as capable as its bigger siblings in the right hands. When paired with the optional 4-speed top-loader and 3.5 traction lock rear gears, the SportsRoof M code could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 6.5 seconds and run the quarter mile in the mid-14s. Approximately 12,581 M code SportsRoof Mustangs were produced in 1970, making them more common than Boss or SCJ cars, but most lacked the flashy Mach 1 appearance. Externally, they wore clean fastback lines, minimal striping, and optional Magnum 500 wheels. Inside, buyers got functional vinyl bucket seats and the classic wood-grain dash treatment, no-nonsense muscle at its finest. Because they were more affordable and less heavily optioned, many M-code SportsRoof Mustangs were driven hard and discarded. Finding a well-preserved original today is surprisingly difficult, and most survivors have been modified. Collectors now see the value in these understated performers. With their strong 351 Cleveland engine and clean looks, restored M-code SportsRoof Mustangs can easily top $75,000 at auction, proving you didn't need a Mach 1 badge or Boss decals to own a true 70s Mustang powerhouse. Every survivor tells a story. A genuine SportsRoof 351C M code, still wearing its factory paint and drivetrain, isn't just rare, it's a time capsule of Ford's rawest small-block muscle hiding in plain sight. Which of these forgotten powerhouses surprised you the most? Was it the tornado-themed Twister Special, the subtle Mach 1 R code, or the underrated SportsRoof M code? Drop your pick in the comments. We'd love to know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives from legendary classic cars. More lost legends are waiting to be uncovered.